everybody, welcome to Appalachian Cemetery Hunting once again. This is going to be our 8th video in a series of the cemeteries in the Smoky Mountains of Sevier County, Tennessee. Later on, maybe when we get finished with this series, we may do more of the Smokies on the North Carolina side, which will probably be very interesting also. So anyway, today we will be at the Sugarlands Cemetery. Now this map shows the cemetery as being located southeast of Pigeon Forge, just off of Glades Road and near the Great Smoky Arts and Crafts community. Now I'm going to give you time to look at this. And here's a photo of the cemetery during the winter time. And you'll notice in this picture that there are 2 boxwood trees, and they're planted right on some of the graves. The earliest burial that we found was in 1888, but there's several pictures of graves with no dates, or there's just no information at all listed on our sources. So there is a possibility that they are some older graves. And we're going to take a look at all of them. So there are 105 people buried here. So let's get started. First we have James G. Bay, 1880 to 1922. And we're not sure about the last name, so maybe you can make it out, and I'll give you just a few seconds to look at that. Then we have M.L. Barton. We have no dates for this person. Then James Bowling, 1843 to 1912. And according to a source, he was a veteran, and going by his year of birth, we're guessing he fought in the Civil War. But we don't know which side he was on. Then we have Carl Bracken, 1912 to 1917. The person who listed his grave on the Find a Grave site says his birth year looked like 1812, and it does to us too, but according to his parents and sibling birth years, 1912 would be about right. So I'm going to give you time to look at it and tell us what you think about that. Then we have Cora Owenby Bracken, 1884 to 1928. Damaris Hamlin Bracken, 1824 to 1906. And here's a photo of her. Dorthula Bracken, 1890 to 1898. And you'll notice that she has a hand-carved headstone and a tiny little cross carved above her last name. Next we have Earl Bracken, December of 1913 to August of 1915. He's just a year and a half old when he died. Then we have Gary Bracken. We don't have any dates for him. However, to us the years look like 1892 to 1917. So you tell us what you think. And then we have Jesse M. Bracken, April 1916 to December of 1917, only a baby. And Ruthea Bracken, born and died on February 15th of 1900. And then we have William Bracken, 1913 to 1915. Josie Brackens, 1894 to 1898. Robert Lee Bradley, 1865 to 1919. Bessie Holly Brackens, October 21st to 1919 to December the 2nd of 1919. And on her death certificate, pictured here, it states that she died from whooping cough. Then we have James Columbus Carey, 1888 to 1922. Amos F. Carr, 1884 to 1912. Then John Boyd Carr, 1856 to 1927. And here's a picture of him. And his wife, Sarah Ann Newman Carr, 1860 to 1904. Then we have Billy Cole, and 1924 to 1928. And from his death certificate, says he died from the flu and pneumonia. Then Billy Bob Cole, 1930 to 1935. Bruce Cole, 1900 to 1904. And you'll notice at the top of his headstone, the inscription is Little Bruce. Next we have Carrie Mae Cole, 1908 to 1910. Florence Sim Cole, 1870 to 1925. Leander Cole, and it's another hand-carved headstone, but there's no dates for that. We have R.R. Cole, which is another hand-carved headstone with no dates. J.D. Fuston, no birth date, but a death date of 1900. And here's the second time I've heard this name. Pinckney R. Hampton, 1903 to 1906. And most of the stone is gone. But there's another picture posted of his grave in a cemetery, and it's listed as Pins R. Merton, and we're going to look at that later in the video. Now we have Aaron A. Husky, 1871 to 1922. Arnold Husky, 1917 to 1920, and he died from the flu. Bruce Mack Husky, 1898 to 1924. M.E. Husky, 1889 to 1904. And Oliver Husky, 1892 to 1927. And we can't make out the cause of death on this one. Then we have Pearlie McCarter Husky, 1897 to 1918. Samuel L. Husky, 1868 to 1932. And you'll notice that the inscription says L. Samuel Husky. And according to his stone, he served in the 28th Infantry. Then we have William Washington Husky, 1896 to 1926. Jim King, 1890 to 1923. Amos Fletcher McCarter, 1887 to 1920. And he served in the U.S. Navy. The name of his ship is on the hat band, but I just couldn't make it out. But he is wearing what was called the Donald Duck caps. And here's another picture of him. Next we have Bessie Mae McCarter, and we have no dates for her. Then Caleb Lafayette McCarter, 1888 to 1926. Carl McCarter, 1916 to 1923. Edith McCarter, 1914 to 1917. Emma McCarter, November of 1906 to July of 1907, only 8 months old. And you'll notice that the top of her headstone has the inscription, Little Emma. Then we have Emma Marusa Newman McCarter, 1881 to 1906. And look at the beautiful carving on her stone. Then we have Gladys McCarter, was only a month old, and from May to June of 1918. And this is a picture of her mother, Rebecca Ann McCarter, pictured with her siblings Clifford and Ruby McCarter at her graveside. Next is Irene McCarter, born and died January the 15th of 1921. Then L.C. McCarter, 1883 to 1919. Leah McCarter, February 23rd, 1904 to March 11th, 1904, only 17 days old. And this is a photo of her original headstone. Next is Lester B. McCarter, April 1919 to September 1919, and he only lived for 5 months. This is a picture of his mother, Rebecca Ann McCarter, along with his siblings, Clifford and Ruby, at his gravesite. And this is a picture that we showed of his sister, Gladys McCarter's gravesite. Their mother is obviously resting her hands on their headstones. Sad. A lot of children died back then. Lots and lots. Then we have Mac L. McCarter, 1861 to 1939. Margaret Stennett McCarter, 1857 to 1917. Mary Jane McCarter, 1890 to 1920. Ollie McCarter, 1902 to 1905. Ed McKinley, 1903 to 1915. And this is a photo of him. He died of exposure during a spring snowstorm while trying to reach his grandparents' house. Initially buried in an unmarked grave, his sister was finally able to name him in 1975. Now that's sad. And here's a picture of him and his family. He's far right in the front row. So sad. Okay, we have Pins R. Merton, July. We don't have a birth date, but it's October of 1903. Now, this grave was listed earlier in the video as Pinckney R. Hampton, 1903 to 1906. This is the way they're listed on the Find a Grave website, but we're not sure which listing is correct. So if anybody out there knows that, you can notify us, please. We have Bessie Moore, no birth date. Death date was November 27th, but we don't have a death year. And next is Mary Jane Newman, 1838 to 1929. Vineyard Newman, 1880 to 1908. Aaron Ogle, 1847 to 1900. And Aaron served in the Company E of the 9th Tennessee Cavalry in the Union Army during the Civil War. Then we have Bill Ogle, no dates for him. Buell Ogle, 1915 to 1922. Burton Ogle, 1851, 1935, and his wife, and please forgive me if I butcher this name, but is Issaphine Newman. That is a new one for me. Issaphine, I don't know. 1844 to 1888. Next is Jane Jenny Connor Ogle, 1820 to 1898. Lafayette Ogle, 1867 to 1888. Pearlie D. Ogle. We can't make out the dates of his headstone. Martha Bradley Ogle, 1855 to 1992. Samuel Ogle, 1899 to 1904. Here's another child, Stella Kate Ogle, 1911 to 1912. Then Washington Arthur Ogle, 1857 to 1905, and here's a photo of him. Mary McCarter Owenby, 1890 to 1918, and you'll notice this is a hand-carved headstone. Next we have Benjamin Nicholas, Parton, 1857 to 1927. Isaac Parton, 1856 to 1914. And his death certificate shows here, it doesn't give a cause of death, so it could have been numerous things. Then we have M. Luvetti Via. Oh, that's a hard one. Parton, 1889 to 1910. And then we have a son of the Parton family, June the 8th of 1903 to February the 5th of 1904. And he was almost 8 months old. Next is Wessie Parton, another child, only lived for 1 year, 1903 to 1904. Melvina Quillams, 1838 to 1892. Lyman Ramsey. There's no dates for him. You can barely make out the hand-carved inscription. Then we have Flossie Elizabeth and Phyllis Virginia Reagan. They were twin girls born and died October of 1934, and they're buried together. Then we have Fred Reagan, 1892 to 1917. Teresa Reagan, born and died September 27th of 1949. Carl Trentham, there's no date, but notice his headstone is a homemade hand-carved one. James Harrison Trentham, 1890 to 1925. Luther T. Trentham, 1904, no death date, but notice the carving. Then we have Rebecca Elizabeth Ogle Trentham, 1862 to 1905. William Harrison Trentham, 1862 to 1925. B.E., we have no last name for her, and also no dates. Then we have a Mary with an unknown last name, and don't know her birth year, but death year was 1895. Then we have an infant son of the Whaley family, January the 12th of 1914 to January the 15th of 1914. Only lived for 3 days. How heartbreaking. Next is Velma Mabel Whaley, 1913 to 1916. Melvina Williams, 1838 to 1892. Now we've got 8 graves with pictures of the headstones, but you can't read the names. And we can only see one of the headstones has a date on it. So we're just going to go ahead and show those. You can stop the video and research yourself, but we couldn't make it out. So here they are. And there's also 5 graves with no pictures of the headstones. They are John Carr, and we don't have any dates for him. William Carr, 1880 to 1903, and according to our sources, he died as a result of typhoid fever. And I know that was a very common thing back then too, and that was mostly from drinking or eating food that was contaminated. So that was a bad thing to do. Then we have an infant daughter of the McCarter family, born and died in 1907. Andrew Ogle, 1838, with no death date. Oliver Owenby, born and died February 10th of 1906. And that's going to finish the Sugarlands Cemetery in Sevier County, Tennessee. We really hope you like this video. And as always, please hit share and subscribe, like. We really appreciate you watching, taking the time to join us, and we will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.